everyone, and welcome to Technically Inappropriate. Considering there's been an influx of alarm at whether I'm okay or not, I wanted to clear the air. I am fine. This is my official, confirmation, proof of life. Rob has not done anything. Yet. That would stand up in a court of law. Anyway, with that out of the way, in this sizzling episode, the boys talk about construction materials. Or at least they were supposed to. No surprise here. Russ runs them off the road talking about poop smoke? Ew. When inside... Hold on. Okay, you know what? You'd think eventually I'd get to listen to the episodes before doing these narrations so that I'd actually understand how to pronounce things, but no. You know what? Whatever. I'm, again, not getting fed enough, paid enough. I'm not getting paid enough to do this. So I'm gonna do the rest my way. Blah-de-blah-de-blah. Tony's dogs are obnoxious. Let's see. Rob is Rob, and there's no other note on him besides that. Wow, interesting. You know what? I'm just gonna throw you to the deep end on this one. Sorry, see you on the other side. Peace.
Almost got the
Is this fucking story going anywhere?
No, I was just testing the fucking sound, Tony.
Jesus Christ, bro. I'm like about ready to nail a testicle to the back of the next passing bus because of like that story.
I thought you said never again.
No, never again with the left testicle.
The right one's fair game.
The doctor said never again with the left testicle.
You got medical advice. It's not a good idea to nail your testicle to a bus.
You're not getting that one back.
That's why we've stopped using the nail gun at the cabin.
You got that.
I can only imagine what the entrance drive looks like.
Well, there are now a couple of speed humps in the driveway, which I think is just Rob being lazy with his free candy van.
I had a lot of work to do that week. I didn't have time to bury him, quite as deep. So I'm pretty sure by the time we're done, like I was listening to the last episode, and I think by the time we get our next talent opener and ender, she's going to be like, nope, there's still signs of life. As today, I'm still alive and safe. I'm going to have a hard time getting people to work with me.
Well, so the good thing about our intrepid intro and outro lady is that it's sort of like that. It's sort of like the hostage holding up the newspaper,
right?
Because
right.
she does refer to what happened in the episode, so we know that she must have at least been alive within the last sort of 7 days.
It's proof of life. So here's what's going to happen, though. Rob is going to contrive. This is dark.
No, go for it. Why not?
Rob is going to contrive a series of topics to have interest written about. And then coerce us into having those conversations because it matches interests.
So no one knows when I
seriously, officer.
Well, seeing that we always seem to start these things by talking around like the verbal equivalent of headless chickens.
Right.
I find it hard to believe that Rob is going to be able to corral us enough to pull that off.
There's no world where he could have predicted we would spend 20 minutes talking about beer and trucks. So
no, that never happened. Or nailing our testicle to the back of a van or bus or whatever that. Yeah, whatever it is this week. Yeah. So Russ, what's your plans for the weekend? Since we're almost at the weekend now.
Yeah, we got my kid's busy all weekend. I'm not so busy until but I'm taking him down to visit the University of Texas on Monday.
Oh, another one.
Yeah, no, we're knee deep in college visit season.
He looked at A&M and said, "No, I don't like the cow fondling part of the course."
I encouraged him to enjoy the cow fondling, when we went to A&M last week. But we'll, trying to make sure keeps his options open. So we're going to go to the liberal mecca that is Austin on Monday, which is where my other son is in school. So I'll get to see him. I'm looking forward to that. We'll, run down on Sunday and stay nearby with my sister. And so we got a little bit of a road trip coming up.
Gotcha.
And doing some college visits. So
is he thinking? No, I think we kind of lost that. Maybe I'll try and clip something in from the last aborted attempt to try and do this episode, thanks to networking. I think our last episode is coming back to bite us. Is he thinking about like UW or anything like that? Because he's talking about physio and medicine and stuff. Like that's a big place for medicine right now. And also,
he's not looking too hard out of state. I mean, I think at this point, if we're going to go to a state school, we're going to stay in state. Because then, if you're in Texas, you can be strapped, and that way, if a gunfight breaks out in the classroom, you're ready to go.
Right.
Well,
they hand you one out with the curriculum.
I think it's really a decision. From my perspective, it's a decision between: do you want to go to a big ass school or a little school, and what kind of town do you want to be in? Right. So we're trying to see all of that stuff. But really, I feel like I know there's lots of great schools out of state, but if you're going to pay out of state tuition, you got to really know what you want to do, right? You got to really know that this is the path. Like this is where I'm going. That's worth leaving the state. And if you're sort of in a more typical 18-year-old, where their head is I don't fucking know what I want to do.
This is what you do college.
I kind of think I might want to do this. Why would I send you to the University of Michigan? Because you might want to possibly do this thing and pay the equivalent of a liberal arts school in the middle of Iowa tuition for you to, figure out what you want to do. When you could stay in state and do that.
That's why I say I don't think college is the right thing right out of school. I think
I'd be fine with my kids saying, if they had a plan and said, look, there's no reason for me to do this, right? Like here's the path I want to go down, and the path might be that when I'm in my mid 20s or late 20s or 30s, I want to go to college, but I'm not there yet. I'm supportive of that, but for my kids, and I feel like this is true for a lot of kids, that the purpose of the college experience isn't just to go to your classes and get your degree so that you can get a job. It's to transition into adulthood. And so part of this is about finding, where's the right place for you to transition into adulthood?
And that, of course, requires the best possible climbing wall and pool facilities.
This is fucking bullshit, dude. Like every campus I go to, every campus I visited, this is my second kid I've done this with. I'm like, they've got a goddamn climbing wall. And when we were at A&M last week, and at A&M they said, we just opened our third rec center. I'm like, why the fuck do you need 3 rec centers? I didn't go to the one you had when I was there. What's happening?
So good.
See, when I was at university, nature paid for the climbing wall.
Yeah.
Exactly. It was like, throw this lump of rope over the wall. Now let's go do some rappelling.
I was going to say, Tony, they're like, and that's how you get to class.
You have to get past all the angry kangaroos, the 3 spiders that are trying to kill you this week. Tony, how was your week going, man?
Had better, had worse, fair to middling. So didn't really. What did I do this week? I don't think I actually did much. I worked on a video for actual, monetary benefit, which was work, and a couple of other things. I once again pointed out to some people that no good can come from senior executive oversight, and that if you want a video that has the term sizzle in its title, you should not let the script be workshopped by 5 corporate vice presidents.
Sounds like you had a great time there.
Yeah, that was sort of my week. my wife's off on a girls' weekend, so it's a perfect Friday here. You know, I have my two schnauzers who will possibly. They're very good. They've got the alarm part of guard down really well. They don't have the guard part of guard down so much. You know, so if you try and break into the house, they'll like bark. You know, they'll alarm the hell out of you. But if you then give them a treat, they'll follow you around the house looking for their second treat while you cart all of my electronics out to your van.
You know? The security passphrase is "Who's a good boy?"
Yeah, pretty much so. You know. No, I did some solid. What else did I do? I did some solid meme work. I didn't create any of my own memes. I was more of a meme conduit of taking memes from one group of people and passing them off to a second group of people. I was a meme curator.
This sounds like another college job we need, the meme curation.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, that was pretty much about it. You know, and then it's Friday, and I'm having a couple of cleansing ales and doing the podcast here.
Excellent. All right. Well, speaking of which, we can dig into that a bit.
Rob, you didn't talk about your week.
Oh, you want to hear about my week?
Not really, no.
Well, I'm going to tell you anyway.
I'm responding to some listener feedback that we don't hear much from Rob's personal life.
Oh, wow. Okay, so let's see. This week, I've been mostly wrapped around the axle with some work stuff, so I've ended up taking on more projects within the operational side of work now. So now I have to deal with like HR pieces and all these other things. So immediately, I think I'm ready to just do technology again. But in the meantime, that's kind of my work week. But outside of that, I've failed to do anything all week. By literally, I was supposed to have a soccer game Monday. I drove out to the game, and they canceled the game when I got there.
Everyone was injured.
Yeah, everyone was injured. Everyone walked in the door and immediately fell over. Yeah, but no, like they had snowstorm, canceled that game, and both my teams apparently played on Monday. So I went to the game. I picked the wrong game. After the game didn't happen, the other game did happen. So no soccer this week for me. And then outside of that, gosh, it just feels like it's been kind of a blur. I didn't work on my YouTube channel. I didn't work on any of my photo projects. I did hang out with a friend who owns a brewery up in now friend, but he up in Seattle called Hellbent. He was one of the original like creator owners of this place. So I got this phenomenal tour of it yesterday, and it was just awesome. So That was good.
And there you go, dear listener. This is why we don't get a lot of requests for more of Rob's life.
Yes, apparently Rob has been writing performance improvement plans on the at the behest of HR all week.
You take the C bucks, you've got to live the C lifestyle.
Yeah, exactly. So I think I'll spend this weekend like clipping up film and archiving stuff. My mom's house flooded, so they're like rebuilding the upstairs. But in the meantime, we've been pulling all the stuff out of closets. And are
you the only family in the world that has a house flood from the top to bottom?
I was about to ask, like,
it's
is it normal? Is it typical to have to rebuild the upstairs when a house floods?
Well, it's a split level, and the bathroom was on the back side of it, so it kind of flooded out through that bathroom out the back.
So what you're saying is you had a catastrophic plumbing problem.
Oh yeah,
not that the local river.
Oh no, yeah. I guess.
Yeah.
I know. It internally flooded the pipe that goes to the toilet, there's a cool name for it, but it broke. Let this be your PSA. Like check your toilet seats, make sure they work well, or the seat to the water inlet for it, because once those things rust out, they shit a lot of water all over the floor. It filled the whole upstairs in a matter of like 30-40 minutes. It was crazy. So they had to pull out that bathroom, the bathroom next to it, because it was the master bathroom, and then like the upstairs bathroom's right next to it, and then it flooded down to the bathroom downstairs. So they had to replace all this stuff. So they packed it out. Mom's living in a hotel right now.
Got to ease up on the psyllium husk also.
Yeah.
Speaking of catastrophic plumbing, I remember a story you told me years ago, Rob, about a catastrophic plumbing issue somewhere at a cabin.
Oh, the poop smoke?
Yeah. Was Tony involved in that?
Yes, this is Tony's cabin.
Yes.
Okay, I thought so. I thought I had heard of you before we started this adventure. That's
Speaking
what
of schnauzers.
Okay.
Yeah, no, the poop smoke was quite great. Heck, do we want to tell that story on the air?
It was a slow pitch.
Yeah, slow.
Well, you can decide whether or not you want to take a swing.
Tony's currently dealing with the alarm system, which is going off in the other room.
As you can hear, the alarm system has just gone off.
It's a home invasion.
So I'm going to go mute for a second while I sort these guys out.
Oh, yes.
All I want to say, Russ, about the poop smoke story is two things. One, the marbling in the smoke was fantastic. And two, if you ask me to describe it, it would be like somebody taking a crap on your face and setting it on fire.
Yeah. All right. So let's tell the story. This might be a good one, considering like our main topic. You're like, I don't even know what I'm going to do other than being the third participant in this. But so yeah, it was a long time ago, back in the early 2000s, and it was one of the first times we'd really gone to the cabin. Tony's wife Sarah, it's kind of in their family. They had another cabin out in this area. And then the family kind of purchased this for Sarah and her sister and her brother as their kind of cabin and such. And so we have this football team called the Coasters. So the whole joke behind them is the beer's always on us when we play games. But Tony thought it'd be a phenomenal idea to have all the families out with their kids out to this cabin. And we're kind of looking over the whole thing. And he's like, okay, so the upstairs has like plumbing and like a regular toilet and all that, but the downstairs has a bathroom with this incinolette in it. And so it's got like a regular sink and a shower, but the toilet isn't plumbed in like the other one because some kind of code, they can only have so many things plumbed up to the septic system within it because it's all got to be self-contained and such. So they put an incinolette in for the other toilet. So the idea of it is... Yeah.
To provide the background, an incinolette...
I have no idea what that is.
All right, so what it basically is a toilet, but you put a little paper bag basically in the bottom of the toilet. You take your dump and then you push the button and it heats the bag up to like 5,000 degrees and basically burns the whole thing to, complete ash. Not the...
Yeah.
Like, there's actually... The ash, it goes so fine, it basically turns it into carbon dioxide. It's really sort of what it does. And it just blows it out
Can I take this moment to mention that 20 years ago, I owned the domain flamingpoobag.com.
What'd you sell it for?
I can't recall.
Because you got to have sold that.
I didn't even want to know what the business opportunity behind that
was. It seemed like a really great idea at the time.
So, that's what this whole thing was designed for, was to, it would basically take this, it would pyroclastically, for want of a better word, turn this thing into gas and then exhaust the gas out the side of the house. Right. So somebody tried it.
Oh yeah. This is where you're at this point so pissed drunk you won't remember this part. I'll bring up this and you can start talking.
No. So somebody had tried it and it didn't work for some reason.
Failure to launch.
Right.
They
didn't bother telling me.
Well,
right?
So actually, here's the truth of the matter. Because no, Tony, you were quite involved, but you don't remember it. So let's rewind to the night before. So the Todd's families are mostly upstairs. One's kind of got and then another one's kind of the downstairs kind of area. And then because it was just me, Teresa, and Zach, we took the kind of the tool shed space because Zach could be in there and be in a calm environment and it'd be good. But they're right across from this this Incendilet bathroom. And so in the middle of the night, Zach's like, hey, I need to go use the restroom. So Teresa goes in there with him and kind of figures it out and gets it to work, supposedly kind of work. And then things kind of go off the rails from there. So Zach uses it and goes back to the room. Teresa tries to get the flush, and this thing sounds like it's trying to take the entire house off of its mooring. It is just rattling and shaking.
So the fan has suffered what we in the engineering business referred to as catastrophic deviation from specification. Right? And they tell me this now
as a result of the activity that happened in the room, or just
no, just due to general age and lack of servicing. Right?
Yeah, and so Teresa,
they tell me this, but of course it's been a long day. There were many cleansing ales had been had, and
we're not there yet. Give me a second.
I am not quite. No, we're just going to jump the
no, I want to tell this. We're telling this story.
And so I apparently get up, having been told this. I get up and I'm wearing a pair of underwear, and I go outside and proceed to just yell drunkenly at the exhaust fan and hit it a few times. Go, okay, I'm done. My job's over now, and go back to bed. Right. Everyone else goes off. The fan stops working, and the next day, I have no memory of me getting up because I was asleep when I was gotten up. And I'm there, and I put a paper under my arm, and I tell the collected crowd that's there, because most of the families have gone down to the Hood Canal, and I tell everyone I'm going down to use Diablo's crapper.
Yeah, I think you made it sound like you were going to fix it, is what it sounded like.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. There's no problem with that. And off I go. I take my dump. I push the button, and like Mount Kilauea starts erupting out of this toilet. There's just smoke everywhere. And you have not smelt smoke until you have smelt human feces being burnt on a 5,000 degree element. Right? And it fills up the entire house. And so people we can't go inside.
Actually, we're not.
But I come up from the downstairs because there's like a little ladder. I'm like, Rob, you got to come here. You got to come over here. And Rob's like, what? I said, no, come here. So Rob comes. I don't understand his thought process. He came over. I'm like, look at the marbling of the smoke. Isn't it incredible? As you can see, all the smoke from human excrement burning all through the downstairs. And the smell was incredible. And then at that point, the rest of the family start coming up the hill. And Rob's like, no, go away. Save yourselves. It's too late for us.
Without question, they didn't even ask anything. They just turned around and walked back to the beach. I don't know if they saw the smoke or what. But before that all started, Tony walks up and he's got this like scared look on his face like, I think I broke the Incendilet. And I'm like, no, you didn't. It was broken last night. Don't you remember drunkenly banging on the side of the house in your underwear? This thing is like, no.
But the thing, I just couldn't get over the fact that, I said I'm going to use it. Nobody thought to say.
Nobody said a word.
It sounded like you were going to go, I'm going to go have a... Actually, your actual words weren't, I'm going to go use the Incendilet. You said, I'm going to go have a word with the Incendilet. So it made it sound like you knew what the hell you were going to do.
To totally honest, I may have said I'm going to spend some quality time with the Incendilet.
Something like that.
Right? But nobody thought to say, it's broken. And so I think it was all a great example of group failure.
I guess I was wondering if you used some sort of Australian euphemism that they just misinterpreted.
Oh, I could.
I'm going to go throw some shrimps on the Barbie. They just assumed that meant you're going to fix something.
I could.
That house smelled like that shit for months.
It took a good 24 hours for it to get out of the cabin.
Did y'all just sleep outside that night? What was the...
Oh, no, we definitely opened all
whole
the
house.
And just, fortunately, it was during summer, so it wasn't...
Right.
But it wasn't too bad.
But so the Todds were not involved with most of it. They came back and they could still, smell it. It's and Todd took the moment to go, I wonder, what did it smell like at its worst? And Tony just turns to him and goes, imagine if someone had crapped in a bag and set it on fire on your face. And Todd's like, huh. This is also the weekend where Tony thought it would be the best idea to get the cheapest rot gut vodka ever.
Oh, yeah. Well, so have you ever seen that? You've never seen that episode on Mythbusters where they try and get cheap vodka and run it through carbon filters to see if it has any impact on it? And so we had been talking about this episode all week. And so it's like, okay, we're going to try it out. And I bought Vitali's vodka. You know, this was like about $1.57 for 5 gallons of vodka.
You should be cleaning grills with this stuff.
Yeah, it was a batch of isopropyl alcohol that failed passing
quality checks.
Quality checks. That's basically what it was. And we ran it through, and it was not remotely drinkable, even after like 17 passes through the
we found the perfect spot was 5 times through the filter. That's about. It did improve. It wasn't good, but 5 times through the filter was about as much as you could do.
It had gone like at about 5 times through. You know, that asymptotic curve approached its maximum quality after about 5 times. But then we spent the rest of the weekend finding things we could mix Vitalis with in an effort to try and drink it all. And there was like, okay, we're going to have Vitalis with, beef broth. And it was like, because it didn't work with Coke. It didn't work with, Sprite. It didn't work in it was that bad. It didn't work in a Bloody Mary. Right.
I wish I could say this is the first time I've had this kind of conversation with software dorks about filtering vodka. And it not going as
it's
planned.
Inherent in the breed, I think.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, it seems like that could be a process. That it is impurities in the vodka that causes the problem with the quality. And then it's a lack of follow through. Because it really, at this point, it's really the problem of test, not dev, is to go work out. It's like, well, exactly what are the impurities? What are their sizes? And will the charcoal filter actually filter out the impurities of that size? Because it doesn't matter if you're filtering something on size of impurity, and the alcohol and the impurity are both the same size, you're never going to filter them out, right?
It's not going to happen, right?
And so I think that's what went on there, was that it was a good idea, but a lack of like real serious sit down and think about how we would approach it. Added to, Outback Washington, this is the cheapest vodka available in a store that serves mostly
some
lone
roadside gas
forest full
station.
of meth takers, so it's like...
It's just a room full of Sudafed and Vitalis.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's the vodka equivalent of gas station sushi.
True. Oh, man. And I want to go on the sherry.
Rob, I feel like I've successfully eaten up 27 minutes of your topic.
No, it's brilliant.
Because I'm afraid of it.
No, I'm down with this. This is great stuff. But
well, the topic was supposed to be crappy housing construction material,
right? And I think we're already off on a good spot with just the silhouette.
Well, yeah, we've talked about crappy toilets,
right?
Both plumbing and non-plumbed toilets,
and dumb code,
bad code, Vitalis,
right?
So really, we're now off to like other things. Like,
right.
I think that the top of the list are wire nuts. I think they're just the dumbest idea in the history of mankind.
Right. Well, let me give a little bit of why I thought this was an interesting topic, and then I do want to get into wire nuts. But like, so my house had the dumbest like kitchen setup ever, and it's a small house. It had this massive like dining space area and a kitchen like the side that should have fit inside of a motorhome. And I was like, I wanted a lot more space. I wanted like double ovens and all this stuff. So I thought it'd be a great idea to just completely rebuild the entire kitchen myself, and we stripped the entire thing down to the studs, outside studs of the house, the ceiling of the thing, everything. Redid all the lighting, put in different ovens, put in all new water lines, all this stuff. And over time, I learned a lot about just how dumb building materials are. Because I was like, what do I want on the walls? Like drywall's like this plaster gypsum stuff that is just, if you ask me what to build a house out of, this is what I build a house out of. And then like wood, they use stud wood for these things, and they're not quite straight, and like nothing straight in your house. I guarantee you, if you run around with like a square and try to figure out, even if your windows are squared, they wouldn't be. Like it's just insane. Like we are in the 23rd century, and everything you build houses out of is just these, I don't know, terrible products. And like to get back to the wire nets thing, you take what code is for electricity is if you need to join two pieces of copper, you twist them together and wrap this plastic down on it, and that's safety. Tony, please.
So the interesting thing is that I think you talked about wall studs and dimensional lumber and that, and that's just a fundamental lack of skill on the part of yourself, not necessarily a problem with the studs.
I beg to differ.
Now, yes, there is some difference. Like houses built 150 years ago were built out of dimensional lumber made from hardwoods, and now dimensional lumber is made from fast-growing pine and everything. And you can, yes, those things are natural products, and they will act due to nature and so on. You can build out of metal. A commercial building is all metal.
Usually some kind of steel or tin or aluminum.
But the cost differential is enormous. And, the reason they do it in commercial has more to do with speed of installation and so on and driving the cost of the install and the build out and everything, because they know that stuff is getting changed. Every time a new company takes that space, they knock that wall down and put a new one up, right?
So you think metal's cheaper than wood?
No, I think the metal is more expensive than wood. I think it is way faster to install. And so when you're fitting out, 30,000 square foot of office space, your cost, much like, the fiber discussion we had last episode, the cost of actually deploying the crew to build the fit out is the largest part of the cost of the fit out. And so if you can decrease your employment costs by 50% during the fit out, you'll save a lot more money than you will if your actual materials cost goes up 10 or 15%. In a housing case where that's not the thing, like those beams will bend, and, carpenters know this. And so they know that you put them in. Now, I don't know which way they're supposed to do it, but, they'll bend in a direction around the longest width. So if you've got a 2x4 stud, the 4-inch direction is where the bend will appear.
Usually.
And so what they will tell you to do if you're a proper carpenter and that is you'll put all those bends in the right direction, so that when the drywallers come in, they can lay the drywall and get it done correctly, and it'll come out more or less, perpendicular and so on. Then there's also the plus minus. There's like the error bars that go on things. If you're a cabinet maker, you're expected to be accurate to within 1/128th of an inch or something.
Supposedly.
Right. If you're a framer, as long as you get within a 1/4 inch of wherever it's supposed to be, that's good enough, right? And so you mix all those things together. The bits where I think construction materials fall down is where there's a clear, convincing, better solution that the price differential isn't enough to justify not using it. The speed of installation isn't enough to justify using one or the other. And why not's my example. The number of fires that occur because of incorrectly joined wires, the fact that those wire nuts. Now, if you're an electrician and you're putting on 30,000 of these a year, right, you're going to have your technique down. You're going to put it together, bam, done, out of there. But if you're the DIYer who is doing this once every decade.
Russ, have you ever put a wire nut on?
So someone like me, I have put a wire nut on, but I'm sure that I've left a trail of destruction in my path based on what I'm hearing Tony say now.
Right. There are solutions like the Wago connectors as an example. They're a European solution to it.
Now, what are those? Including
basically
Russ, no one knows what the Wago connector is. You and me.
So they're basically a lever type connector. You put the wire in, you push a lever down, it locks the wire into a plastic housing with a shared metal conductor in it. And so all you have to do to join the wires together is just push them in and push a lever down. And so there's no you don't have to twist them together. You don't have to put the wire nut on properly. You don't have to make sure that the wire nut is the right size for the cables you're joining. You don't have to care whether or not, are the gauge of the wires the same as you're joining them. And, then you've got the whole, if you stick in.
And to be fair, it looks like a small little network, hub. If you looked at each wire has its own little piece.
Right.
And
It's like
the backbone metal.
Right. It's like a little network hub. You push each wire in, you clip the lever down, and it locks in on the wire. And they pass UL spec, they pass the National Electric Code spec, and so on. And this is something that will engender, on actual forums where electricians pass. This is a 780-page thread on why wire nuts are better than Wago connectors and vice versa. But just as far as I'm concerned, it's a far better solution. It's less likely for the DIY to screw it up, and it makes it easy for you to do it in a way that can meet spec.
So is it that the Wago connector is superior, or is it just that it's easier to use for the layman?
It's more.
Whereas if you're a professional, you're better off. The preferred approach would be a wire nut, but you got to know what you're doing. If you're not a professional, you might as well use this thing because it's easier to use.
Well, I think it is easier to use. I think there is less chance of screwing up.
Right.
Which even professionals can do.
Right.
As somebody once, as a quote I read somewhere, I don't know who this was originally from. It's amateurs built the Ark and professionals built the Titanic. And
never thought about that before, but yeah.
I'm thinking about it in terms of plumbing, right? Because I had to deal with a bunch of plumbing stuff after the snowpocalypse a couple of years ago here in Texas, and I learned more than I ever thought I would need to know about plumbing as a result. But there's these push connectors that make it easy for a DIY person to
the shark bite. Yeah,
PVC with these shark bite things. But then I had a plumber come out and look at this stuff, and he's like, "What the hell is this?" He was very unhappy with the shark bite contraptions that are around.
Right. Well, some of them, and that's a lot of new technology. A lot of plumbers didn't trust that the shark bite connector would actually work over time, and to credit them with being correct, if you don't get the end of the pipe clean and properly inserted, you don't get a guaranteed fit. So there is a chance that you will have a leaking pipe in your wall.
But they are certified for in-wall use, though. That's one of the things.
Right, but they're certified for in-wall use if they're installed correctly.
As in,
I'm just wondering how different is the Wago from something like shark bite in a plumbing context.
It is much different because
they're rated for the power, right?
If you are incapable of installing a Wago connector, you are incapable of installing a wire nut. And that's sort of the thing. So that if you can't make that first bar, you're never going to get to the next bar to do it. It's not like, there's a different class of problems that you can have. And so, they have the plumbing is a great example. If you think about it, professional plumbers of, decades of experience did all this stuff in copper pipe. And to put those copper pipes together, you had to braze them to join them together. And that's a real skill.
Right?
To braze properly and not burn things up. And and so on. Whereas the shark bite connectors, like pretty much cut the pipe cleanly, push it on until it appropriately seats, you're good to go.
I'll put one in the Discord for you, Russ. So you can see
go
this.
have a look even now at modern commercial plumbing solutions. A lot of this, that they're all using PEX piping, and now they've got this whole solution that is basically a tool you push into the pipe, and it expands the pipe for you, and then you put the connector in, and in seconds, literally seconds, the pipe will shrink back to its right size, and it mounts and clicks onto the pipe and seals. And then they have the other ones where it's you put it over a connector and you put a band over it, and then you have another gun that you pull, and basically it's an enormous crimper, and it crimps down.
Right.
They're all moving away from the brazed.
Well, you got to put the primer and do all that.
Right, because
nonsense.
A, it's very labor intensive, and B, the price of copper is
skyrocketing,
exceptionally high, right?
And also, if you don't, it's really easy to do it wrong. To be fair.
And so I find my problem with plumbing is that it is fundamentally a dark art. And, there's, you get a pipe, but if the pipe is used in this particular scenario, then you measure it based on the outside diameter of the pipe. But if it's used in this scenario, you measure it on the inside diameter of the pipe. And then, and all these things. So the only way you can effectively go to the big box store and buy a connector is by taking the existing connector with you to ensure that it actually fits. Because
there was a lot of, after the snow apocalypse, there's a lot of me walking around Lowe's with pieces of PVC rattling around in my pockets,
looking like a lost child. Where's my parents?
Me and 100 other people in the same aisle,
like zombies.
We have no idea what we're doing.
Like zombies, just up and down the aisle, looking at everything.
Exactly.
Right. And now I put in a water extension for my fridge in the garage so that I can have ice, the ice maker in the garage fridge working. All done with PEX, all done with those shark bite connectors. It was, I had to buy two tools. One was the actual pipe cutter to make sure that I got a nice clean cut on the PEX tube.
Right, and cleaned off all the little
And then the
burrs.
other was an actual copper pipe cutter, the thing you put over the pipe, you screw it in, then you spin it around, then you screw it in, you spin it around, and it has a couple of little V wheels, and they eventually cut a big enough groove that the pipe just breaks, so that I could tap into the line. And it was really very, very easy to do. But then I've had other things where I've had to replace taps and pipes and stuff. And you go, all right, well, this should be a 1/2-inch pipe. Well, it's not, because it's a 1/2-inch inside diameter pipe. Okay, well, what fitting? Well, you measure the inside diameter of this fitting, but the outside diameter of that fitting. And that's how it, and I'm like, why? Why? Like anybody would, in the electronics business, we say it's like, okay, it's a 5-volt supply, right?
Right.
It's like, and they're like, well, if it takes different stuff, you say, well, okay, yeah, it's like 3.3 volt to 5 volt, and you look at the data sheet and it says, don't feed it any more than 7 volts, or otherwise the magic smoke will escape. And, that information is all collected by the Plumbers Guild and shared only with journeyman plumbers in the dark of night, out in the scrub somewhere, while all wearing robes,
Yeah. Well, I mean, don't get me started about once you have to do like American, even the plastic, in the piping, between American and Europe, because I bought a European coffee machine, and it was just easier to get a European adapter that moved it over to a 1/4-inch plastic pipe like they use in all the water service stuff. If you've ever been in your office or whatever, you're seeing like that one blue plastic pipe that goes to your water filter, and then connect it to the American on this side, then trying to figure out how to jerry-rig something between the European standard my coffee machine was on and the American standard my water tap was on. It was just easy to do plastic.
I never really understood that, because You guys fought a war of independence. You kicked the monarchy out and kept the measurement system. Right? We in Australia kicked the measurement system out and kept the monarchy. And, the whole metric thing makes a hell of a lot more sense.
Well, I don't know. Italia doesn't use it. So.
It's all powers of 10. It's not like, okay, yes, well, that's 3.5 feet plus 700 weights over a furlough pound, right?
I could barely listen to what Rob said because I was so confounded by his fancy coffee making system. Did that thing come with opera glasses?
Oh, absolutely.
You fancy boy.
Yeah, it was actually black tie when he went to pick it up.
Oh yeah, I bet.
I had to wear the gloves. Had to have had to wear the gloves to pick it up and move it. Yes. No, it's a crazy system. At some point,
the man that sold it to him was named Benedict.
So we've kind of went backwards from the way I kind of wanted to go about this, which is obviously what you guys do is completely mess up.
It's 100% on brand.
Absolutely.
Channel, really.
So
I'm here to derail.
Exactly. So I do agree, and what I wanted to kind of end on is I felt plumbing is the one that is kind of continue to move up from like concrete pipes to like in cast iron pipes into plastic and PVC, and now we have the PEX system, which is actually really a phenomenal setup, and shark bite is actually something I've seen them like try to, like, plumbers don't like it, but they've done plenty of tests that show how this stuff works very well and fails a lot less than others when, as Tony had said, works right. But then I go and look at the wall. I want to go back to drywall. I would love some different system, something easier for the layman to use, because like when we were finishing up and just getting the walls up, it had to be drywall. And then you have to get these things in and screw them in and all the studs, and you have to cut the stuff and create a crap ton of dust, and then you need to put down mud and tape and try and make it kind of flat-ish and then paint it and all this stuff, instead of, like, I was just looking for alternatives. Like, why isn't there some kind of great plastic board, especially in the Northwest where mold is a big deal here? Mold happens all the time. I'd love a better, just like a plastic wall or something that was good and sturdy and easy to work with, super easy to clean, none of the big issues you can have around health issues with stuff getting into the walls and all those problems.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Well, so there's probably I've got to imagine that the plastic manufacturers have sat around and said, hey, we could do this.
Yeah.
But I imagine that it runs into the challenge of plastics tend to burn really well. Rocks tend to not so. And so,
it's a Monty Python joke in there.
Your drywall is basically made out of gypsum with some paper on it, so it's really hard to burn gypsum.
Right. It's basically like a plaster and
so now what is the cost per sheet of that? And then compare that to a plastic which won't burn, won't melt, and won't off-gas a bunch of volatiles that are bad for you, right? And so it's got to be a case of, like, they've tried it and said, yeah, we either can't pass the home spec, or to pass the home spec creates a product which is way more expensive than the drywall as it is.
And hence why we're still cleaning up asbestos.
Well, to an extent, why they say if it doesn't need to be serviced or move, don't touch it, just leave asbestos where it is, right? Because it does the job, and it's only when it's in a airborne dust format that it's bad for you. And so that's a sort of, that was like when we got rid of all the vermiculite in the ceiling at my place, because my house, Russ, was put together by a guy, it was renovated, by a guy that I call, whose engineering style or construction style was being excellently incorrect. Right? He would be wrong at everything, but he would be consistently wrong in exactly the same way.
I live in a house like this. I'm pretty sure. I don't know if the guy who lived here was left-handed or just wired differently, but he was definitely a DIY contractor. But every lock turns the opposite way you would think it would. Every light switch is not quite I've lived here for 3 years almost, and I still don't know the light switches because it's not
intuitive.
It's not normal.
Right, because it would be so hard to take that light switch off and just turn it upside down. Right, being the master of DIY that you are.
It's definitely way beyond what I'm capable of, Tony.
Well, as Clint Eastwood said, a man's got to know his limitations.
That's right. If I did that, I would clearly set the house on fire.
Just a picture of Russ turning the switch over, and then the outside, an explosion.
Just flip the switch, Michael Bay.
And then you'd see like the
I'm running in slow motion away from the house.
The transformers down the street on the poles just all blowing up with sparks coming out.
It's not just, it's the whole neighborhood would just go up in flames.
But so coming back to my house was like a lot of that was the same thing. This guy, when we did the ceiling, I wanted to get blown in insulation because I wanted to actually get consistent insulation across the whole roof.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this guy worked for the railroads, and so basically anything that was left over from building anything, he would throw in the back of his truck and use it. And so the upstairs, the ceiling had vermiculite. It had those amazing 1-inch batt insulation, fiberglass bats. But it was clear that they had put fiberglass bats in at some facility somewhere on the railways, and they cut 1 inch off every bat to get them to fit. And he had gone around and collected all the 1-inch offcuts and proceeded to make, a 16-inch bat of 16 1-inch offcuts, and all this stuff. And it was just a horrible thing, But that vermiculite could have been asbestos, it could have been. I say vermiculite because it was that sort of grained sand type thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it was. And to be clear to Rob's legal team at some time in his future life, we never had it tested, so we don't actually know what it was.
I was
That's
crawling
called
around in
plausible deniability.
The same crew that was, and the poop smoke incident also helped him clean out his all the old insulation. So he could do stuff in there.
It was an arse of a job because we did it during summer, so it was about 4,000 degrees in the ceiling. And my ceiling, it's not a high pitched roof; it's a low pitched roof, so there's not a lot of space up there. And I'm a 6'2", 310 pound, former rugby player, so I fit in that space like a pair of dog's balls. And the rest of the guys, they said, look, we're just going to do it because otherwise we're stuck behind you as you force your way slowly down the roof to get somewhere. It's easier if we go get it, pass it to you, and then you just carry it and dump it off places, right? But then when the guys came in to do the blow-in, they were, like 2 guys from Brazil, from the mountains of Brazil that were native Latin Americans that were about 4.5 foot tall, and they just wandered back and forwards in that space, blowing stuff out there. It's like they had no problems whatsoever with the size and everything, whereas you had this crew of 6 big fat white guys trying to do it, and it was a cluster of genetic proportions.
It was a very warm day, and so we purposely were setting a timer. It says, okay, we got to get out of there every 15 to 20 minutes and drink water and stuff like this. And at one point, I'm at the far end from the entrance, and Tony's like, all right, it's time to come out. And I'm like, fuck that, I'm not coming all the way back here again. So I just stayed in there grabbing stuff for the next 15 while Tony worried at the door for a bit. And then we got it all at that point, but it was that moment where I was going to do it twice.
I don't play around with heat stroke and stuff. I'm, as an Australian, especially, I had one of my guys when I was in the army. We were on exercise. It was a leadership exercise. And he suffered heat stroke. And I remember, pulling him off the bit of work we were doing. And I said, Damien, just take a break, have some water, just walk down this road a bit. We're following you. We're coming down the road. We're hauling this gear, right? And get to the end under the shade and sit down. And we're pulling all this gear along, and I look up and I watch Damien just basically walk off the end of the road into the scrub and straight over the edge of like of some little ravine thing, because he was that heat struck that he just didn't know what was going on, and all he walked straight line, and that was basically what he did until he fell down a hill.
Oh my God!
And so I'm like, yeah. So don't play around with heat stroke, children. It will kill you.
Oof. So I can see why Tony's worried. He didn't tell me that story then, but we finished it out. I got out.
Oh, I was worried about Damien. I wasn't worried about Rob.
He was in my outfit.
I was directly responsible for Damien. Let's be clear, right? The Army had said
there's a
you
lot
are
of
responsible for this guy.
paperwork to fill out if Damien kicks it, but if Rob does,
it's just we had a ton of those 200-gallon black plastic bags, from the.
Pretty sure that's insulation. Just carried away.
Yeah, it's leaking a bit. It's wet installation. Don't worry about it.
I love it. So to wrap this up and kind of come back to it, I think cost is a big deal, and then cost versus also, I guess fire safety is a big deal, and that is I think that's one I hadn't thought about before, but is there a better future than gypsum and wood and all this, or
Well, what you have to there's continued innovation in
plumbing.
There's continued innovation in house renovations and building and so on. And it's a continued progress of looking for better things. And one of the things that, I did when we first bought the house here, and so I was looking at all the things that need to be done, because unlike Russ, I can actually make changes. I'm not saying I made the changes, because I'm also, unlike Russ, I'm also lazy.
Me.
No, unlike Russ, who has already shown his desire to drive the Smoldering Man and back. And, I would watch a lot of the shows they did from the actual building and trade shows, because a lot of what those new products are that they're showing you in these things that they're pitching to actual proper builders are also available to the DIY if you just know what to go ask for. Now, you can't buy them at the Lowe's, because or the Home Depot or Ace Hardware, because those guys sell primarily to everyone else that's coming in, and so that's the thing. But if you know they're there, you can find out who the dealer is, and then you can go to an actual proper supply store. And for everything but HVAC, they'll sell it to you. HVAC is a mafia mob.
Oh, yeah.
If there's ever a group of people that deserved a RICO investigation, it'd be the HVAC contractors.
True.
And so when I put the heat pump in here at home, my dad's a refrigeration engineer, and it was cheaper for me to fly him out from Australia to help me install the heat pump myself, and put in because you got high pressure gas lines, and brazing those gas lines is a real skill. It's even more skillful than just normal plumbing. It was cheaper for me to fly him out here to the US from Australia, do the work, and then fly him home, than it was to have the local HVAC guy put it in for me. So, yeah.
Well, the only thing I'm brazing is my dinner.
Oh, yes, definitely. So we'll go with that.
Coming back to it, Rob, sorry, just to wrap up my
you're randomizing through the valley.
I think that I'm randomizing myself. So just I pay no favorites, on this whole randomization thing. I think if you watch and see what's new, you can make a decision for yourself as to what's good and coming out, and then go and look at, you can go on the net these days and actually search for builders forums where they talk about installing this stuff, and people will tell you whether it's easy or hard or what they found or so on. So I think there are a lot of really good solutions for things. There's a lot of things that won't change, because, you don't really need to change something. If it does 95% of the job and it's, the cheapest thing available, do you really want to double the price for that last 5%? You're chasing last miles, right? And that I think it's a bit of like requirement that if you're going to DIY, you're going to have to DIY. Sorry, you're going to have to spend a bit of time in research. Time spent in reconnaissance and planning is never wasted, as they say.
Fair enough, Russ. Your thoughts?
Oh, that's a great point. That's a lesson I try to even teach with my kids, which is planning the work you're going to do is work, and it doesn't like I know it doesn't feel like work. But sitting down and thinking about, well, what is it I'm going to do and how am I going to do it? That's the same thing as doing it as far as I'm concerned.
Fair enough.
Right, which is why the software industry, we turn off warning level 4 on the compiler and just ship it.
That's right.
Well,
wow.
This has been my greedy way of trying to find something other than fucking drywall to put up in my house. And once again,
shiplap.
Shiplap.
Listen, I'm going to send you a link, Rob, to Earthships, and maybe you could do something with tires full of sand and recycled glass bottles.
I'm sure Alice would love that.
You could do compressed clay.
Oh, maybe something. But I definitely want something better for that because, plumbing's gone a long way. I could probably find with wood framing, but fucking drywall could go die in a fire. All right, gents. Any last words?
Adobe.
Tony.
And by that, Russ means the Mexican, Latin American, sort of Middle American type of construction, not the software company that makes Premiere Pro.
Oh yeah, we didn't even talk about frickin' ceramic tiles for roofs. All right, get out of here.
I was prepared because I don't know what the fuck we're talking about today. I was prepared to go down let's use retro tech to make sustainable living.
Which I didn't want to touch ceramic tiles because that's pretty much 100% of the roofs in Australia are done with ceramic tiles. So I don't really understand what you're bitching about. Because they're perfectly okay.
It must be used in really warm areas then, I guess. I don't know. Sounds like a whole nother episode.
It's like, your shingle thing, seriously, you put something up there that only has a 25-year lifespan. Look, the Italians have been building Rome for the better part of 3,000 years, and they've still got
right.
They've still got roofs built out of ceramic, tile that are existing and work. Right, the ceramic tile works great. It lasts forever. It'll, outlast every. You put the roof in once, you never put it in again. It's not like you think. I think the problem with it is that it doesn't deal well with hurricane type weather. Right. So I think it probably didn't. It didn't take off in the U.S. because
it would have taken off.
Well, no, because you have the weather events.
We probably have more hail and tornadoes and hurricanes than you might have in
Australia.
Right, and so you had a metric arse load of cedar trees, so you made shingles and you put those on your roof. Whereas in Europe they were doing tile and slate and stuff like that. So you didn't have to make them here. And you just got stuck on doing shingles, and it just became cultural that you do shingles. That's the way a roof looks. In Australia, we didn't have a lot of wood. So, you made, you took clay and you turned it into ceramic tile and you put it on your roof. And
that's why all the roofs there are made out of kangaroo skins.
That's right.
Yeah. So
very much.
There are more kangaroos in Australia than there are people. So
no, it's cool though because you got places where you can put stuff. Just tuck them into those pouches.
All right.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Get out of here. You're done with
Sorry. Now I'm just fucking around.
No, you're good.
Rob's been on the video part of this call saying, okay, we're done. Cut it off. Come on.
I love it. Well, considering Russ came into this thinking he wouldn't have anything to provide, already his kangaroo roof technology is going to be the future.
It's an innovation.
So it's on the merch list right after the mangy yak.
Mangy yak and
the mangy yak throw.
The mangy yak throw. Yeah.
Frankly, I'm kind of down with the kangaroo walls as well. I cannot use drywall, and I have a place to put my books, so built-in bookshelf.
I like
technically that's leather walls, so you could probably pitch it as being super high end.
Oh yeah, it'd be like a leather wall, but those shoe racks that hang on the inside of your closet. It'd be like that.
Totally. Yeah. Just all over the house.
I love it. Put your CD collection in there. for all the people who still
Well,
keep CDs.
it gives you a place to put the remote.
Oh, that's true. I would never find it. I'd have a wall with 30 pockets, and I'd spend half an hour trying to
Which
find
one's the
where to
remote
put the
in?
remote.
No batteries again.
I'm pulling change out of pockets.
Why do we have so many batteries?
3-year-old popcorn.
Why did we put that in here? All right, gents. Russ, get to dinner. All you have a
All
good
right.
weekend. Appreciate y'all. Cheers.
All right,
Thanks,
gentlemen.
y'all.
Catch ya.
Bye.
Wow, that, at least it stood up to the inappropriate half of their name? We know that drywall isn't going anywhere, even if Rob wants it to. A wire nut is just fine until it isn't. Plumbing takes a wizard. Standard, metric, or otherwise. And Russ shouldn't be allowed to improve anything due to fear of catastrophic loss of life, mainly via kangaroo. Let's be honest. We are taking next week off, maybe for the best, so we'll see you in 2 weeks with another insane installment. Drink plenty of water and avoid the Lowe's DIY zombies. And rest assured, this text-to-speech voice is definitely not a sign that the narrator is being kept in a dungeon closet against her will, only to see the light of day when Rob decides he is feeling merciful. Ha 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 ha. Cheers.